All right, I am going on vacation, and so it is time to leave. But I'm not sure that I can actually afford a vacation. In fact, when I get over to Europe, which this is all made up because I can't afford to go to Europe, but when I get over to Europe, the uh, the place that I'm planning on staying at is going to be 230 euros. But I have American dollars. And in fact, I'm going to be traveling into Ontario to travel over to Europe to take the plane. Um, but I'm not even sure if I can afford lunch because all I've got is $19, but they're American dollars. Um, so today, what we're going to be talking about is the mathematics involved in determining how much money in American dollars, how much that would turn into if we turn it into a different currency. So, for instance, euros, or if we turn it into francs, or if we turn it into pesos, or if we turn it into the Canadian dollar. So a lot of that comes with exchange rates, and then we use the exchange rates. There's a buy rate and a sell rate, and we'll talk about that. And it tells us how to figure out how much money we actually have, if we know how much American dollars we have, or how much something's going to cost us in a foreign currency if we're trying to go somewhere else.
All right, so we want to go on a trip, and the big thing we got to figure out then is how much money we have, and in particular, if we're going to a different country, how much money that we have, what that's going to turn into that other currency. So in front of you, I've got some exchange rates, and what this is the Windsor Currency Exchange. They have different exchange rates that they will they'll use to exchange our currency, our United States dollar, into whichever currency they end up having. And since it's Windsor, it'd be Canadian. Now, you can see exchange rates for different places because it doesn't mean that we're necessarily coming from the US. Maybe we're coming from Europe. Maybe we're coming from England. Maybe we're coming from Mexico. And so we've got these different exchange rates that are listed on here. You will see that there are two different types of exchange rates. There is a buy rate. So the buy rate is different than what we call the sell rate. So this is the sell rate. Now you want to think about it like this. The money that you have in your pocket, your US dollars, they are something that it's not currency in a different country like Canada. So when you go to Canada, your US dollars are not currency there. It still has value, and that value allows Canada to buy your money. So when you think about it like this, when you go into Canada, if you were to take your US dollars, you would sell your US dollars to Canada or to the Windsor Currency Exchange. If you were to take Canadian, which is the actual currency there, then you would be buying the currency back. Now, because you can see the buy rate is what they buy your money at. So they're going to purchase your US dollars. So this means that anytime you're in a different country, that currency exchange store or place that operates this, they will always be buying foreign currency. And then if you want to get your foreign currency, your US dollars back, they will sell that to you. Now these rates are slightly different. And the reason for that is because when they sell or buy money, they need to make money so they stay in business. So you'll notice that that the rates are not necessarily the same. Now the actual exchange rate is somewhere in between the buy rate and the sell rate, but because we're talking about actual applications of using these rates, we're going to kind of just focus on what the buy rate and the sell rate is. So you notice that the buy rate for the currency, what we have right here, is we have that the buy rate for US dollars is 1.31676, and the sell rate for US dollars is 1.33276. And so what we're going to do then is we're going to use these values when we're actually trying to make a computation about how much our money is actually worth. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. All right, so as I said, the buy rate, so they're going to buy our currency, means that if you go in from the US into Canada, so suppose that you take in some money, suppose that you take $100 US, Now the US dollar is USD for US dollars, and you want to convert this to Canadian. Now, because you're converting it, so you're in Canada, right? And because you're converting it to Canadian dollars, then you're going to sell to them. They're going to buy it. So we're going to use the buy rate. So they are buying it. And you have to think about they are buying, so we're using the buy rate. If they were selling us US dollars, then they would use the sell rate. So they are buying. So think about the idea that it's they that determines whether or not it's a buy rate or a sell rate. So they're going to buy our money, our US dollars, and the buy rate is 1.3676. 31676. So the way that it works out is like this. If we take the local currency, in this case, it would be the Canadian dollars. Let's call this L, the amount of local currency. The foreign currency would be the fact that we're looking at US dollars. We are foreign if we're in Canadian soil. Let's call this F. And the rate, it could be the buy rate or the sell rate. In this case, we're using the buy rate. We'll call this R. Now the formula looks like this. If we take, there are two formulas. If we take the foreign rate, the foreign currency, and multiply it by the rate, this would give us the amount of currency for the local currency. The other formula then is that if I want to know the local currency, I can divide it by the rate, and this gives me my foreign currency. So if I'm actually going backwards. Now in this case, for this particular scenario, we want to use this formula. We want to take that foreign rate and we want to multiply it by the foreign currency, we want to multiply it by the buy rate, and that will give us the local currency. So in our particular example, we're going to take our foreign currency, which is $100. We're going to multiply it by the buy rate, which is 1.31676. And this is going to give us how much Canadian dollars we're going to get. So it's going to be $131.68 if you round it to the nearest cent. So this is what we'll get if we walk into the Windsor Currency Exchange. Now, the other scenario is that we could go back and we could try to figure out, suppose you go into Canada, you take $100, you have that turned into Canadian dollars, is $131.68. You go out for lunch and everything's going great. You come back and you have less money than you started with. Well, if this is the scenario, you may be looking at having to take the currency, the Canadian currency, and turn it back into US currency. So you go back into the Windsor Exchange. Now in this particular scenario, because you're going back into the Windsor Exchange and you have Canadian dollars, they will sell you US dollars for your Canadian dollars. You're using Canadian dollars to buy it, you're buying, they are selling. So if they're selling, suppose that the sell rate, now we said what the sell rate was, it was 1.33276. And in this scenario, suppose that we have $30 left. So suppose we have $30. Now this is local currency because we're in Canada. So this would be L is equal to 30. R is equal to 1.33276. And then what we want to find out is we want to find out how much foreign currency we're going to get, how much US dollars we're going to get. Now it's foreign currency because we're in Canada, so it's still foreign. So in this case, F is equal to L, which is 30, divided by R, which is 1.33276. So what we get, 30 divided by 1.33276, gives me $22.51. So if I have 30 Canadian dollars, I get $22.51. So this allows me to take the currency that I have that after I've spent some money in Canada and figure out how much money I'm going to have back. The last thing we want to be able to do is the formulas are there. So the formula is F times R is equal to L, and F is equal to L divided by R. Those are the two formulas, and those are the only formulas we need to have. The other thing you need to know, of course, is whether or not it's a buy rate or a sell rate, but that is based on where you're at and the fact that you have to remember that it's them, that place that you're doing your currency exchange. Are they buying or are they selling? And they buy foreign currency or they sell foreign currency. So which way is the foreign currency going? And foreign to them is what is really important. So I want to end with a final scenario. And that final scenario is, suppose that a hotel costs $225. So hotel costs 225 Canadian dollars, so CAD. And you want to figure out how much that is in US dollars. So you want how much money do you need? Now, if you're going to the Canadian exchange, so you're in the Windsor Currency Exchange, then the Canadian dollars, that's the local currency, so 225 would be equal to the L. How much money do you need? Well, we're talking about your currency, your US dollars, so we want to know what your foreign currency is. What's the rate? Now, in this particular instance, remember what you're doing. You're going in with foreign currency. You're going to sell your foreign currency for Canadian currency. You're selling, they are buying your foreign currency. So we're talking about using a buy rate. And this is probably the biggest thing to try to get your mind over. Again, they are the ones that are either doing the buying or the selling. They will only buy or sell foreign currency. Foreign currency is currency that's foreign to them. Even though it's your currency and it's local to you, it is foreign to the place that you're going. Now, on the other hand, if you went in, you had US currency and you went into a US currency exchange, then it would be a little bit different, right? Because you would be taking US currency to a US currency exchange, you would be buying the foreign currency, they would be selling it to you. So it does depend on where you're at. So you really want to spend some time trying to wrap your mind around that. So we're going to use the buy rate, and the buy rate is 1.31676. Now we're trying to find F, so we're going to use the formula F equals, and the local currency is $225, and the buy rate is 1.31676. And so what you end up getting is, you get 225 divided by 1.31676, gives you need $170.87. And that would take care of that hotel cost. So those are the formulas, and those are how to use them. And so then the question is basically just what kind of scenarios can you run into, and so hopefully this will help with the worksheet in the lab that are coming up.